Olá pessoal, meu nome é Renata Soares, esse aqui é o Circuito Off Conexão NY. Faça chuva ou faça sol, nós vamos estar aqui mostrando para vocês o que acontece nos bastidores dos espetáculos e falar um pouquinho sobre a Off-Broadway. Hoje a gente está aqui no AQUI Theater para mostrar para vocês um espetáculo que acabou de estrear. Alguma ideia? Tic Tic Boom! É claro que essa tinha que ser a nossa primeira escolha. O musical autobiográfico de Jonathan Larson, compositor que ficou mais conhecido pelo Rent, um dos musicais mais famosos do mundo com certeza. Essa nova produção é dirigida por Jonathan Silverstein e é com ele que a gente vai conversar agora.
The first musical I ever directed about 12 to 13 years ago in a small production in Cape Cod. And so I fell in love with the musical then. I was just so drawn to the story of an artist trying to commit to his work, deciding to commit to his work, and it felt very true to me. I think this is just a timeless tale of really for anyone who has a dream. Not necessarily an artistic dream, just a dream that costs something.
What do you think the audience should leave the theater feeling? What should they take from the show?
I think they should take the struggle of what it means to make a decision. It is such a story of growing up, turning 30, how one makes a commitment and how hard that is. Jonathan really was a wonderful composer. He struggled for a long time, like so many of us do. He wrote this really huge and complicated musical called Superbia, which was loosely based on George Orwell's 1984. He couldn't get the rights to 1984, so he ended up sort of like changing it to make this musical Superbia, which is actually part of the plot of Tick Tick Boom, and there's a song from it, Come to Your Senses. And he couldn't get it produced because it was so big and the sets were futuristic and it just wasn't right. It was too big for Off-Broadway and too weird for Broadway. And he was, as I understand, he was very disenchanted. And she said, you know what, I'm gonna make something that I can do on my own. And he wrote this one-man rock monologue, which was Tick Tick Boom. Supposedly, he went around to get it produced and people were like, well, we like it, but we want a star to be in it. And he said, well, no, I want to do it. And so it really never got done as a production. Before and after the show was when he worked on Rent. Then Rent happened and he sadly passed away. Then in 2000 or 2001, one of his best friends, Victoria Leacock, got together with Robin Goodman and they decided to produce Tick Tick Boom. And there was a fantastic director, Scott Schwartz, who had an idea that it should be a three-character play, a three-character musical like it is now. So they brought Dave Auburn along, who wrote Proof, and what he did is he got all the different drafts of Tick Tick Boom, all the different songs, and they basically worked and refashioned it into what you see now, into a three-character piece. The first person that came to mind to play Jonathan was Nick Blaemeyer, who was playing the role. So he really was our first choice, and we just went out and really just asked him. And he was so pleased and humbled to accept. Sierra, I did not know, but she came highly recommended from our casting agents, and the more research I did on her, I was just like, oh my gosh, this woman is a powerhouse. And I really wanted someone strong to play Susan. For the character of Michael, I also wanted to go a little different than sometimes people cast the role, and I wanted someone who was fun. And who could have fun with Jonathan, and who we could really see their childhood friendship even now as adults. George just had this quality of fun to him, and he just imbued Michael with a lightness yet a depth that really appealed to me.
No more taking a shower in the kitchen while your roommate's eating breakfast and you're getting water on his cornflakes.
What do you think is Susan's role in this story?
She is someone who is allowing kind of her brain to expand around other ideas and other dreams and other goals. And it's not because she was unsuccessful or anything like that. It's just she really feels drawn to do something else. And like for anyone, if you've been chasing after one dream for so long, to like change that dream or to change careers or to change partners or whatever it is, you know, those big things can be really daunting and really hard to do, because we get comfortable kind of being unhappy or comfortable doing the same thing that we've always worked for. But she's changing her dream. She wants to start teaching. She wants to go someplace else. She wants to try new things. And I think that that's really remarkable and wonderful and very, very different than the way that Jonathan is kind of looking at life.
Love becomes disposable. This is the shape of things we cannot ignore. Come to your senses. Suspense is fun if you are just an empty image emanating out of screen.
So what do you think is the difference between a big Broadway show and an off-Broadway show?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest difference is that there's 3 people in this show as opposed to the 40 or so that we had in Pippin at any time. And we have no understudies. It's really just all us, you know, and we have to really be in sync and be connected with each other. And it's a very intimate process. And the fact that we get to do it in such a small theater, which is only 200 people watching us, is really wonderful too. Like at the end when we sing Louder Than Words, we can literally connect with every single person if we want to, you know. It's really intimate, and I think, in my opinion, how theater should be. You know, I know that, you know, commercial profits and whatever play into why we have such big houses, but I think, you know, when we're telling a story that is so relevant to so many people, like, you can only really touch them if they can hear it and they can see it and they can feel it, and that's what I love so much about theater.
When you're on Broadway, there's this certain level of pressure because there's millions and millions and millions of dollars like funneled into this thing, and it has to go well, and if it doesn't, then all these investors lose their money. So there's just this like really tense pressure that's put on you as the actor, as the interpreter of the text. Doing this, there was no pressure.
Really the only difference is, you know, a Broadway show and off-Broadway show, they all can be big, they all can be little. It just depends on the contract you're under. There's a very certain number of Broadway houses in New York, and they're all above 499 seats. So really anything below that is off-Broadway.
Is this real life?
How do you think is going to be the future of musical theater, having all the digital influences, social media, and the new generation, how they're behaving? How do you think that's going to affect musical theater from now on?
I mean, I think we've seen it even in the last year or so, or maybe the last 2 years. We've seen companies actually filming nights of the show to distribute, and I think unfortunately that's kind of how it's going to start going, because things are available more rapidly via the internet, and people are used to kind of streaming things on their own time. It's hard to get anybody to come to something at a scheduled time and, you know, really pay attention, especially with the advent of telephones. Our cell phones are in our hands all the time, which we can see them when you use them in the theater. But no, I hope that we'll be able to kind of keep up with the way that technology is kind of zooming forward, and I also hope that like people will understand that you need to be respectful of this. This is a totally different art form than being on a screen, and as much as it's wonderful that people get to see them who will never see it before, you know, in the Midwest or whatever, who never get to come here, that's really wonderful to an extent, but like the beauty of theater is seeing it live, and so I hope people will continue to like remember that and respect that as well.
I can only say like what I hope is going to happen, and what I hope is going to happen is new musical theater writers that are untapped and unknown and brilliant can find a way to find producing partners who can make their works accessible to the world, so that musical theater writers aren't discouraged in a way that like Jonathan was. A way for these writers, and I'm friends with so many of them, and they're so brilliant, but it's like it's so hard to find the money to produce something. So I hope that new musical theater writers continue to reinvent the wheel and change musical theater for the better. No more like movie musicals, no more jukebox musicals. Let's have like some great original brand new material.
Yeah.
I think I would love for that to happen.
Social media, movies, everything has changed the landscape, but nothing will ever replace live theater.
What do you wish people had told you before the big 30th birthday?
Oh my gosh. I think I would hope that people would say, take your time, chill out. You don't have to accomplish everything by your 30. And indeed, there are better years way ahead.
Estamos aqui minutos antes do espetáculo começar, tique tique boom, e eu vou assinar esse mural que é chamado Cartas para Larson. Na época do Rent, eles tinham esses murais nas paredes e as pessoas escreviam mensagens para Jonathan Larson. E agora eles estão recriando esse mural aqui no Tic Tic Boom. Então eu vou assinar, mandar minha mensagem.
Sugar, 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 you got me kissing your feet, pretty baby. She don't care what I look like or how I dress. No, 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 no. Only thing I know is that she makes my life such a mess. Oh yes, sugar, oh yeah.
Pessoal, obrigada por terem assistido e espero que tenham gostado. Se quiserem saber mais sobre espetáculos Off-Broadway aqui em Nova York, fiquem ligados. Meu nome é Renata Soares e esse foi o Circuito Off Conexão Nova York.